Hi, it's Conor Svensson here, founder and CEO of Web3 Labs, and this is your week in enterprise blockchain and protocols on Monday, the 22nd of November, 2021. Key events this week include ConstitutionDAO failing in its ambitions to purchase a copy of the US Constitution, ConsenSys achieve a $3 billion valuation in their latest round, Tether launches the Synonym platform for the Lightning Network, Polygon announces a ZK Stark solution, and Deloitte and Ava Labs announce a partnership. A new DAO launched recently called ConstitutionDAO, and the goal of ConstitutionDAO was to actually raise enough funds to buy a copy of the US Constitution that was going up for auction on Sotheby's. It was one of those DAOs that started getting a lot of momentum very quickly with people putting money into it, and they actually managed to raise $45 million over the course of a week or so. And the idea though was that the DAO would successfully buy this copy of the Constitution. Some of the funds, of course, would be used to actually then look after it, but then the owners would be all of those people who'd contributed to the DAO. So it was a really fascinating experiment. The idea that people could come together, create this this decentralized autonomous organization, and then it could buy an asset as valuable as one of the last remaining copies of the US Constitution. It was fascinating and just blew me away to see. But unfortunately, they didn't actually win the auction. The bidding started at 10 million, and then it jumped to 30 million, and then got to a final bid of 41 million. However, the DAO could only get up to 40 million because they had to reserve some of their funds for if they had won it, how they protect it and secure it and so on and so forth. They managed to actually get almost 20,000 members in 7 days, and over 15,000 of those people contributed to it. So now, what's going to happen, who knows? But of course, there's going to be some challenges for people if they want to get their funds back, because the transaction fees on the Ethereum network are still quite expensive to withdraw those funds. But it's an amazing experiment that's happened within the DAO world. And whilst this wasn't successful in their end goals, I'm sure we've not seen the last of it, and we'll no doubt see some similar initiatives emerging off the back of this. Boeing have announced a new partnership with TrustFlight, and so this is a digital aircraft maintenance platform, and the idea here is that they're creating the digital aircraft record system. What that's going to be used to do is to ensure that aircraft parts are not counterfeit, and also verify the maintenance of the parts to ensure that it's legally compliant, because the airline industry, of course, is very heavily regulated there. And so it's still early days for this project, but there's perceived to be some really good cost savings here of potentially increasing efficiency by 25%, saving $3.5 billion a year. So another project to watch definitely in this space. ConsenSys, one of the very well-known companies in the world of blockchain, they've closed a $200 million funding round, giving them a $3.2 billion valuation. We've spoken numerous times about ConsenSys, of course, in our Week in Crypto update. We referenced MetaMask there as well this week. With this raise, though, they've had some really significant backers there. So you've got HSBC, Coinbase Ventures, Parify, and Third Point as well. And ConsenSys have been banging the Web3 drum for years and developing a lot of industry-leading products there as well. So it's it's certainly a very timely raise for them. It's the second one that they've closed this year as well. There was a raise that we spoke about earlier on in the year. I think it was around April time, where you had people like UBS and Protocol Labs created some Filecoin and a number of others there. So they're definitely going places with respect to the investors they have with it. But certainly one of the areas that they're really doubling down on here is supporting central bank digital currency projects, which they're involved in quite a few, especially in Asia, which includes Hong Kong, South Korea, and Singapore. And one other thing that they are looking at too is driving mainstream adoption of NFTs and hoping to hire another 400 people. The supply chain tracking network, VeChain, they've updated their consensus mechanism to what they've announced as being the greenest method of verifying blocks on the chain. This consensus mechanism, it's how the network actually reaches agreement between the different nodes. VeChain's been around for quite a while. It was launched back in 2015, and it's used primarily for tracking goods as such. So you can think about it for supply chain type applications. One of the criticisms, or potentially about the lack of decentralization integration with VeChain that it's only got 101 nodes, which certainly gives it a bit more flexibility about how things like network upgrades and so on, and being able to coordinate them. But it's certainly a big step forward for them there. Another launch that happened this week was Tether with their Synonym software company, and what this is they're trying to boost adoption of Bitcoin's Lightning Network. So the Lightning Network for Bitcoin is like the well-known scaling network, which is considered a kind of equivalent to the layer 2 networks that you see on Ethereum, and that it supports a much wider transaction throughput and lower transaction fees as well. And so the intent behind this project is just to lower the barriers to entry for people to actually build and work with the actual Lightning Network. And so one of the first things that they've announced is a project called /tags, and what they want to do is provide interoperability with private networks that can actually be used for bridging with these Bitcoin networks. It's still early days for it. There's not a great deal of information on other than the press release around it, but certainly they're really going after getting more people working with the Lightning Network, because I think still by many considered the barriers to entry are slightly higher than they could be there. The Iota Foundation, they've announced that they're going to be creating a staging network and reward token, and so they're actually calling this a staging network, but it's no doubt similar to the Canary networks like Kusama that we have for Polkadot, where in effect it's not a test network, but it's a place for people to test things before these innovations make it onto their main network. And so they're really trying to drive more adoption of DeFi and NFT applications here, and by working on this platform, it's slightly lower risk with not quite as much at stake as it is with their main sort of network as such. So to see, where Iota recently announced that they are adding Ethereum virtual machine support there into their network. So again, exactly how this plays out remains to be seen, but they certainly seem to be taking it quite seriously, the whole idea of trying to become more decentralized and a more innovative blockchain network. Polygon, the layer 2 scaling network that's had a lot of success, that's a layer 2 network for Ethereum. They've announced their ZK Stark technology, which is powered by something called the Maiden virtual machine. The idea here is that it's actually using something called ZK Rollup or Zero Knowledge Rollup, and they're a cryptographically based scaling technology for these layer 2 networks. But by having a zero knowledge Ethereum virtual machine, what that enables them to do is actually execute smart contract code in an environment that's cryptographically secure, so that the executions aren't visible to participants on the blockchain other than those who should actually have that visibility to it. So what it does is it enables you to start having private information being aligned with the blockchain. So one of the examples that's being given here is authenticity of documents about users' personal data, for instance, to prove who they are, for instance. This could be integrated into it. So it's a space that's evolving very quickly. Last week we spoke about Iota Labs having closed a $50 million round for their zero knowledge EVM product as well. And then we also have Starkware too. They closed a $50 million round recently. And so it's a space that's really hotting up for these zero knowledge technologies for layer 2 scaling. But Polygon's certainly got a lot of market share at the moment. So no doubt they're going to be well positioned with this. Finally, as well, Deloitte have teamed up with Ava Labs to streamline natural disaster reimbursements. And so this is a platform that's called Close As You Go. And what they want to do is basically save money for these agencies working on these disaster relief efforts, because apparently a lot of money is lost due to non-compliance with federal requirements with this, and there's documentation that gets missed and so on and so forth. And so the idea here is that you can just streamline the whole process. They're actually piloting this out in southeastern United States. Avalanche has been getting a bit more traction in this last weeks, with more and more projects being announced, and certainly their price rallied very significantly off the back of this announcement. That's all we have for this week in Enterprise Blockchain and Protocols. If you're interested in the key events across DeFi, crypto or NFTs, do check out our other Week in Blockchain episodes. And if you'd like to learn more about the people behind the scenes driving a lot of this technology forward, do have a look at our Blockchain Innovators podcast, where I speak to individuals who've made significant contributions to the blockchain ecosystem. Find out what inspires these people, get their thoughts on the latest industry news and events spanning crypto, enterprise, protocols, DeFi, NFTs, and DAOs. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.